All right, we are waiting for our guests to join. I'm looking forward to connecting with you all and providing some updates this morning. This is the Monday weekly AMA session. We're going to have two guests today. So bear with me for a few minutes as we await. Uh, while we wait, I will just give you a quick update. Some really cool things are coming down in the next few days. We have our name service coming up. We also have some of the UX updates, but more importantly, Credible Monday will be ready in a matter of days. So those are very cool things to look forward to. This office hour session will really focus on some of the adjacent communities that we are working with and some of the contributors coming in, but more importantly, some of the really cool things that are being built in Web3 that some of you probably have heard of, but didn't really understand or have any details into. So we'll be very happy to discuss those this morning. Gary, how are you?
Good
Hear me?
afternoon, good evening, and good morning.
All right, awesomely awesome. Welcome aboard.
Glad to be here, sirs. How are you guys?
Doing all right. Thank you very much. We are waiting for our second attendee. Yeah,
Nice. Well, I appreciate you making it a little bit earlier, so it's kind of crazy, right? You guys are probably like you're kind of early starting out such a thing, and I'm like sitting here at midnight on Thursday. The world
oh
is
my word.
is a funny place.
It is. It definitely is. It's a process. Sometimes when you work in an industry that never really goes to sleep.
You know it.
Yeah,
Sleep is a luxury, or as Arnold said, you want to be successful, you sleep faster.
exactly. Get it in, get it out, get it over with, right?
That's right, man.
That is awesome. Yeah, we're waiting for the team lead at ArbitrumHub to join us very shortly. I sent him the link. He's also in a different time zone. Figures, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think if you haven't done, a few really early hours of the morning types of AMAs or live streams or just gone in to listen at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, you're kind of not Web3 enough yet. You really
No.
gotta like aspire to these things.
But it's crazy too because at some point, it gets very, 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 um, it gets very normalized, right? Where you get used to it, So it's kind of interesting where you get normalized to the time zone differences and you kind of just expect it, you know.
Yeah, well, I have had a little bit more. I don't know. I think we've got a good culture in our team at MASQ. I mean, we kind of chat about, caring for yourself, not burning out. But I got pretty burned out this year, a couple months ago. It kind of was triggered by getting sick, like I get a flu and then it blows out to worse, and you realize like, damn, I've been pulling too many nights. I've been working too many hours, or just staying up, like obsessing about some things which I thought were real big things in the project, and realized, oh, I was losing too much sleep over this, but it builds up and it's like you get a sleep debt and that other stuff. So like I think a lot of people Web3 probably do need to, be kind to themselves, and nothing's gonna like fall over if you take a day off or take a vacation with the family. I don't see that enough to be honest.
No, it's not. I think a lot of it comes down to mental health, right?
Mm,
I mean, because when you think about, just how much, you know, people sacrifice just to be in this industry, it's like they call themselves degens or whatever. I mean, everyone has their own, whichever way they, describe their working style. But at some point, you know, glorifying the hustle, I mean, you don't celebrate what impacts negatively your mental health. It's okay to take time off. It's okay to leave your phone in the living room and not bring it to the bedroom, just to see what's going on Twitter or the industry. Like, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to, I don't like using the word touching grass, but I think it's okay to dislodge. It's totally fine. Like, the world's not going to end. Right?
yeah, honestly, it's true. Like I think yeah, like you said, it gets normalized a little bit, right? Like you got to be everywhere all the time. And you said it well, like the crypto world doesn't sleep, right? The markets are always open, trading's always happening. Anytime you go on socials, there is some kind of event going on, or
Mhm.
live stream, or conversation. And yeah, you got to turn off because, even people like us, builders, founders, advisors, like what you don't realize is you're not performing your best for your peers and colleagues and friends around you if you're grinding like that for too long. You actually
Exactly.
start to suffer in other areas, not just at home where your family's like, oh, geez, he's looking tired and like he's a bit snappy this week. It's affecting the people you interact with too, and your little tunnel vision that you get. Um, yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast on that actually, being healthy in Web3.
Oh, we definitely will. We're definitely getting onto that, Yeah, and unfortunately, I think the onus is on, founders and, those in leadership positions to really, let their teams know that it's okay to take time. Because if you're working smart and you're doing the right thing, you will be able to take time off, because there's a difference between being busy and being productive. Unfortunately, we see, and this is in any industry, not just Web3, we see a lot of busyness, right? Versus actually productivity. I mean, think about, and we're going to get to this, as we progress. I'm waiting for Pius to get here. Um, think about a lot of projects who start with a product and then it falls on the wayside. They launch the token and then the token becomes a product and they forget about the product, right? And they're so busy, running to all these conferences, talking about what they're doing, not what they've actually done or their contributions, right? It's just what they're doing, but they lead with a token. So they're busy, I call it busybodying, right? They're so busy running around because, hey, the token launch, there's a lot of hoopla, all the stuff. But think about, and this happens every bull run, where it's all about the tokens, right? And everyone's just busy shilling, DJ, doing everything about yield. I mean, everyone's building the next coolest yield optimizer, right? And then the product falls on the wayside. So how do you really say you're productive when really you're really just busy trying to, optimize and stabilize your token? And the token is a
Yeah.
byproduct, of what you build. The token is not the product. So I think that disorientation, that misalignment, I think, is what's predominantly led to a lot of mental health issues. Because if you think about it, if you're building something really cool and meaningful and impactful, you'll sleep well at night, because
Yeah.
you're doing something, right? You go to bed every day knowing, today I've made privacy a little better in the world. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, it's okay. And it reflects in
Yeah.
how you live your life.
I think that does people, yeah, it does motivate people to grind a bit harder sometimes to their own detriment, right? Because I guess if you've got a good moral fiber and you're a builder and a Web3 founder or whatever in a team, you kind of do start to feel attached to that community in that way, right? You're like, I know like there's people here that believe in us. So they went ahead and they're on the speculation side where they're like, oh, I like the vision, I like the idea. And maybe your project doesn't have the product live. So the people will get involved by buying the token. And
Yeah.
eventually, yeah, the team's like, oh man, I don't want people to feel like we're letting them down. And if the token goes down, people are like bad dev. If the token goes up, you're like good dev, like everyone
Exactly.
sort of starts talking and thinking that way. And then you feel like you're trapped in that sort of cycle, which is
Yeah.
not good. And if you don't mean it to be that way because you got a great use case and a great product, and the token just happens to be utility attached to it, um,
Exactly.
it can affect you. It can affect the way you work and look at things. You got to take your head out of the sand or the
Yeah.
the
And
the
it's
voice
tough.
and
It's
and
tough.
rethink it.
Yeah. It's very difficult. I mean, just, like just even considering, for a second, just when there's too much focus on the wrong things, not necessarily the wrong things, but the things that don't count at the moment, the pressures are different. So if you think about, a team building a product, and then the token overrides everything. And then the culture now revolves around the token price and the token, the token. Well, guess what? Most team members aren't experts on tokenomics, you know, but the culture now puts the pressure on them like everything you do must not affect the token, right? Think of a UX designer who just wants to build good, user experience and great interfaces, right? Or a site reliability engineer, for example, who just wants to build, they want to build stuff, but now everything they're doing has to support the token, and that creates a different kind of stress. There's stress that you can understand, right? Because it's part of your job. So if I was a growth specialist, the kind of stress I know I would have will be related to growth. So I can sleep well at night because that's my area of expertise. I know how to address those things, right? But if I was someone who has no experience and, daily, you know, exchange management, market makers, all that stuff, and now I've been thrust in that position, then I'm going to be more stressed because it's a foreign area. For people who don't have that kind of experience, that's how they're going to feel. And again, mental health, I hope it comes to Web3 and people start to think about those things, because I mean, it's been almost 15 years. This industry is maturing, and we can't keep doing the same things that, you know, that we used to do at the very start, midway through. It's kind of backwards. Hey, Chaitanya, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt
Oh,
you, but I was
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
he's entered.
Oh, yeah.
He's come.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's there. Where's Payush?
Yeah,
He's
I
not
can hear
coming
you.
today?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. He's not responding. I think he should be joining in about 5 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. Meet Hero. He's a team lead, project team
Wait,
lead.
are you waiting for Payush Maheshwari?
No, not that Payush.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like, we have too many mutual friends here, in the small Web3.
Not that guy.
He's
This
a
is
great
Payush
dude, but I just
Chaudhary.
thought it'd be funny.
Oh, yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, too many mutuals going on. But yeah, so Chitania Meet Hero, he's a project lead at MASQ AI. They built the MASQ browser. Kauri meet Chaitanya, he's one of the team members at ArbitrumHub DAO. They built the ArbitrumHub. They're doing a lot of work over there. They also building a lot of cool tools across all the Web3 ecosystems, Akash and other places. And I'm bringing them into MANDE as well to help build. They actually, speaking of, they are working on SetNet, the Stripe for Web3 project we talk about. This is your
Awesome.
team.
Nice.
Yes, so together we're building a Web3 token economy where people can actually transact, buy, and sell using crypto.
That's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so needed. That's so needed. Right now, I've only really seen like merchant side, a few solutions, and then Coinbase Commerce. But you gotta like go right through their institution application to get access to that, and they take a cut. So yeah, it's just so much room for that to flourish.
Yeah.
And be native to Web3.
Yeah. I mean, imagine the next eBay or Craigslist all on Web3. Buy, sell, and settle using crypto. Just like I think we forget that one of the trajectories that skyrocketed, Bitcoin and even Ethereum was when people started actually conducting transactions, with those those cryptocurrencies. And that's what happens because when you have good token spend, right, it increases its value, but more importantly, it actually unlocks utilization. And that's often what many projects miss. Like most utility tokens are pigeonholed into their native use cases, but there are many people who might not have an immediate need for that use case, right? So if I'm looking at, say, storage for decentralized storage, I don't need storage. I've got hundreds of terabytes available to me already, but I want to support the project, right? So what do? Well, if I can spend, say, MASQ tokens, right, on the MASQ marketplace and buy a pair of sneakers with it, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, 100%, man. I was real excited when you first approached me with some of these concepts, and it got me thinking too, like about what it takes. I mean, I actually spoke about this. We had a town hall with MASQ live like 10 hours ago now. I've been awake for a while. But I actually said, I'm like, what are the things needed for a product in Web3 that might just actually be native Web3 in its roots to onboard 1 million new users? And then I joked, I said, I wonder if we have 1 million unique users right now in Web3, because it's the same faces everywhere you look. The same users going from chain to chain, yield farming, doing all the incentives, doing the stuff, and then they kind of move around. Do we actually have over 1 million unique users? Who knows? But the future's got to be getting that next million and then more and more and more in from Web 2 in the traditional world, right? We probably do have tens of millions of users, of course. But when I was talking about MASQ, I was like, well, how do we get 1 million users of MASQ? And one of the things is that kind of strike for Web3. Like if I'm offering a VPN competitive product that's Web3 and someone's not Web3, I kind of need to have them be able to buy MASQ tokens with a credit card because they might not bother about that, but that's the easiest way to do it, and have them on board. If I don't have that link, we're disconnected from the rest of the world in Web2,
Exactly. And that's a scary thing, when you think about just not having that link. And how many ways can you really go into, Web3 and say, guys, let's look outside of our own echo chamber, right? Let's look outside of what we know, what we're comfortable with. And really, because growth is often horizontal, not vertical, right? And when you broaden out, then the tent gets bigger. You get more diverse participation, and you get better. That's just how it works. And Chaitanya, I want your input on this as well. As far as what you guys have seen generally within your spheres of influence, at Arbitrum and other ecosystems that you work with, as far as diversifying use cases and really bringing non-native use cases into the ecosystem and how that reaction has been.
Yeah. So as far as you're just talking about e-commerce using crypto and tokens. So I think there's already has been a very good use case of that. Have you guys heard about that site called the Silk Road? So they were using, I think, Bitcoin to peddle drugs and hitmen on the Silk Road. So the use cases are far and wide. Yeah, that's just one of the devious use cases of this. But yeah, the use cases there's a lot that we have seen. Especially we're also working with Akash Network. So yeah, Piyush is a lot more into this stuff as far as I'm concerned. So he will be able to tell you more about what we have been doing in the past few years. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm only limited to a few projects that I'm
That's awesome. So let's get into MASQ, Carrie, because I really want to, really understand like what's coming down the pipeline. I know you guys pushed out a few updates over the last couple of weeks. I've been jumping into your spaces and AMA sessions, listening in. Like what's going on? What do you have for us? I'm the MASQ maxi, so please let it rip.
Yeah. I mean, I was here to just talk whatever's current and like privacy, Web3. But yeah, MASQ, like I think the way I find myself in conversations really reinforces to me how privacy is like such a strong narrative. It impacts everything. And there's such a big aspect in Web3 about self-sovereignty, privacy of your data, privacy of your ownership on things, whether it be digital assets, whether it be IP, because you are an artist, whether it be you want to build a project. Well, hey, look at how much there's really no red tape if you want to just build a public good. And then suddenly you might have interest to make it, an enterprise or an entrepreneur vehicle for other things. Like we're so blessed in this industry that we've kind of built while everyone around us was a skeptic, and we're getting validated every day by more and more use cases. But then when you look at privacy, you're like, well, now we actually have a chance for users to own their data, and the layers can be peeled away as they see fit if it's done right. And what I mean by that is you've got things now like digital identity, DID, like big in some of the ecosystems. You've got things that are needed now to be replaced. We've got every week I see news from giants like Google, Apple, YouTube. They're all fighting VPN technology. They're fighting people taking control of their identity and personal identifiers online. It's because they're protecting their interests, which is all about ads and harvesting people's data to sell them shit that they probably don't need. And so like, I find that MASQ is so relevant in so many conversations, because someone will say, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, if you imagine you want to just like protect your data online, you can use the tools here at MASQ. You can use the browser. You can, experiment with the protocol. You could put it on a device and run it at home and route your traffic through it, like all that type of stuff. So to tap into that wider audience, like one of the biggest things that we've talked about recently to get to the masses and make it easy to access is we're building an extension that can go in any browser, mainstream browsers. That does everything that our MASQ browser does, but just without the browser, right? We've realized a lot of people are very used to their comfort zone in a browser. Some people will use a browser for years and years. They don't want to change. And that's kind of a big ask, right? It's a tall order to say, hey, you've been a Brave user for 10 years, or 7 years, or you've been a Google Chrome user forever, or oh, sorry, man, you're a MASQ Edge user or Microsoft Edge user. Okay, there's got to be one of them in the room that they just haven't converted to a real browser or something cool. Getting them to convert to a new browser, hey, maybe that's too hard for some people.
Yeah.
So we've gone into the extension way, but at the same time, yeah, we've also released a feature which we believe is as far as we know, a world first, where you can adjust, the hops that you're going through with our MASQ network tech to trade security with speed and vice versa. So maybe you're visiting a site, you're not so worried about it being completely untraceable. No one knows where it's coming from. No one knows where it's going. You might only want like 2 hops instead of 3, or 1 hop, and it's faster, basically like a customizable tour sort of thing.
Interesting.
We're releasing that. So yeah, a lot of stuff there. So that's a little,
Yeah.
little
So
spiel for
what?
me.
Yeah. So what would happen in terms when we talk about, say, file sharing, for example, on MASQ? Is that something that's, you know, down the line? Because I'm thinking of, full privacy, semi-privacy, and no privacy, and giving people that like flexibility, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think well, I guess our current approach, at least for me, like looking out, like with a vision of what MASQ could be, and stepwising it without having to build everything from scratch, right?
Mhm.
Our approach has been try and integrate the most mainstream, well-adopted, mature technologies that offer those things. And for us, we were looking at the MASQ ecosystem saying, what are the pillars that you'd need for a fully private experience in all these areas of your life? It would be storage, like you're talking about, file sharing and things. It would be chat, communication, and then you'd have the network, like basically decentralized internet. If you nail all those 3, because DeFi and e-commerce and all that on a private layer can exist in those things, because you've got the things you need. You've
Yeah.
got communication, you've got the network, and you've got storage. Because like finance is really just sending a message of, hey, who owes me this? Have they paid?
Yeah.
That's really all
Basically.
finance is now. There's no hard money anymore. You could argue Bitcoin is digital hard money and ETH is the settlement layer and all that stuff. We can go forever. But we're like, okay, cool, we want that. So let's integrate partners like Akash. That's decompute, denetworking. We'll provide the bandwidth for people to communicate. Let's partner with Filebase, which is like a hybrid Web 2, Web 3 solution, like a Dropbox, but they're leveraging IPFS. Let's go with partners that can do wall-to-wall encrypted chat, which we really haven't flourished as much as we'd like, but we had a partner, DM3, which has got a beta product, works great. That's how we're tackling that. And then we can further integrate it to be like granular, where we could do some heavy lifting with devs and make it native in the browser, like even more, rather than maybe going onto their website to do it. You'd have like a native widget that's like literally drag a file from your desktop on your like computer into the browser, and boom, it hosts into IPFS. Like stuff like that's going to come in the future. So
That's crazy.
it's kind of how we did it,
Yeah, I think it's curious to observe that, we look at, obviously Julian Assange got released recently, for purely what I would call purely for political purposes, and where I'm going with this is I believe, but I just wanted your take on this. The next Wikipedia will either be built on, supported by, or run via MASQ. Because when we everything, when we decentralize across the board, then you empower a lot more people. So we think about what happened with YouTube, for example, right? Where, right, wrong, or indifferent, love or hate, the company, what is done for content creators around the world, right? Where cultures and places where hitherto we weren't, the world didn't have visibility into their cultures, their art, and things like that. So now many of these creators in different parts of the world, all they need is internet access. Now they're creating content, creating diverse content, creating multi-language content, and sharing it with the world while earning some revenue from it. So I think that's phase one, but I think we keep going back to the challenge of at what cost, right? They sacrifice their privacy, among many other things, to earn a few shekels, right? Now, I think from a privacy perspective, I think, the other side of that is the content is still regulated and moderated, and people are still getting canceled for doing the wrong things, right? So you have, I mean, the example of, I think it was a Sudanese president who, you know, very old man, defiled himself in public. And instead of, the Sudanese government saying, oh, our president is ill, right? You know what they did? They arrested and jailed the reporters and the cameramen that filmed it. This was at a public event. You see what I
Wow.
mean? And
Imagine if they did that in the States, all the geriatrics would, there'd be so many reporters being jailed.
exactly. I'm like, wow.
You'd
Have
have
you
no
been to?
press room.
Yeah, I'm like, have you been to Washington? you know,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
exactly. So imagine, and they started to scrub. I mean, there's still fragments of that video here and there because it's been a few months. But the first thing that occurred to me was, wow, imagine whether you're a journalist or a reporter or an activist, right, who gets something like that. You could publish it on MASQ, right? You could just get in the MASQ browser and get it to whoever you need to get it to, however many hops, whichever. So my point is, MASQ has this absolute capability to become the platform which activists and renegades and true disruptors can get their message out there.
Yeah, it's something I do see lacking in the narrative pitched by all the other quote unquote privacy tools out there. And maybe they're too scared to go down those avenues. And that's a whole nother story of if they want to tap the niches that are the more vocal users of tools like this, or ones that really need it, that are in a place where they're persecuted or oppressed for what they're doing that is actually seen as the right thing to do, right? Like journalists who are independent journalists who are in a place that's very dangerous.
Mhm.
Maybe someone who's unbanked and their country's like, hey, if you deal in USD, we're going to lock you up. And that's
Yeah.
happening right now too. I mean,
Yeah.
even Nigeria has just come out and said, hey, listen, we're cracking down on crypto, we're cracking down on VPNs, we're cracking down on anything you do that's foreign currency. We don't want you to touch it.
Correct.
People have a very hard time that like understanding that big countries like this is, well, again, we're talking geography all of a sudden, but like Nigeria is huge. Like there's more people there than the US as far as I know, population wise.
Yeah.
And like you look at China, like these countries are ring fencing their finance. Like people getting money out of China is very difficult if you're a wealthy person.
Yeah.
There's restrictions on moving capital. That's why Bitcoin is huge in China.
Yeah.
Not all the alt shitcoin market. They just deal with Bitcoin pretty much.
Yeah.
And you need a way for people to communicate those things. But when you're saying, hey, what's the next sort of form of immutable journalism, or like, let's say someone needs to publish truth somewhere,
Mhm.
like it makes sense to me. It's got to be somewhere that's immutable, like IPFS. And how do people do it? Like journalists, people we're talking about, they're not going to sit there and try and run a node and then find a way to host a file and do all this
Yep.
stuff. Like they're going to want to sit down at a coffee shop. They've written their thing in the darkness. They don't want anyone to know, and they want to just post it somewhere where it stays, and then no one's going to know who posted it unless
Yeah.
they sign off, right? So I guess like yeah, where I was starting with that is I don't see VPNs, I don't see even Brave and these other products that are in our sort of sector. I don't really see them trying to resonate with those users, like users who actually righteously want to use their product to protect themselves, to protect their information, their message, their truth. Obviously, there's bad actors who will use the tech for bad things, but you'd hope that the majority of use, like there's more good people in the world than bad people, right? Or else we're already sitting in chaos. Who knows? But
Yeah, yeah.
they're not marketing that at all. Do you see that anywhere with the tools that are sort of in our
No,
sector?
no, not at
That's
all.
weird.
And Chaitanya, feel free to chime in on this as well, because I think this is a global
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I think most of the tools out there today, primarily because they are either directly or indirectly backed by venture capitalists. So
Hmm.
what happens is, with all that, the soft landing, right, comes with those conditions, right? You really can't push the limits, because remember, most journalists know more than they put out in public. Whether it's, if you watch Tucker Carlson, if you watch CNN, whatever, they know more than they actually put out there, right? Whether it's CNN, no matter what the news station is, left, right, middle, whatever the case may be. However, what then happens is those who go farther by really putting it out there, they are often pursued and demonized and sometimes killed. Assange, for example, was made, that's like sending a message, like, that's the system sending a message, right? So you take places like Venezuela, China, see Nigeria, and countries that have really adopted crypto. What do they have in common? What they have in common is the citizens expect absolutely nothing from their governments. Okay. So crypto now becomes another avenue for them to further distance themselves from having any expectations from their own governments. And what we've seen throughout the world is every country where either revolution, revolt, insurrections, or coup d'etat happens, since time immemorial, the signs have always been there. Economic turmoil, further distance between the citizenry and the state, until something happens. And we saw it happen in Haiti. We've seen it happen in even Venezuela. We've seen it happen in Chile. And we've seen it through, it's happening throughout the sub-Saharan region now, from Burkina Faso to Mali to other areas. And it's curious that the tools that exist today don't even give the users an opportunity to get their information out to the world. Yeah, VPN, Brave browser. People forget that even Brave browser is not even, I mean, there's really no privacy there if you peel through the layers. Okay. Every browser that I have touched in my life on this earth, before MASQ and after MASQ, hasn't had those fundamentals. Okay. The story is often from a marketing perspective, but the reality is often the opposite. So we're in a place now where you have to ask, is it time to really, you know, disrupt in the truest sense of it? And then see, let the chips fall where they fall, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
before Mask, the only privacy option that I saw for journalists was like changing your operating system entirely. So you go on a Linux distro called Cubes OS or something like that. So what journalists used to do is they used to carry these bootable pen drives in which they'll keep the Linux distro, and then like install it on a laptop and then do their like the secretive work. But yeah, that was the best option that was available before the Mask browser. So I feel that after the introduction of Mask browser, this is a very good use case. Like it makes it very easy for people to access things privately and put out things more privately. Because before this, the only alternative was to like change your operating system entirely.
Yeah. And to change your whole OS, you have to know a thing. I mean, well, first you got to have the time. And Cowrie, correct me if I'm
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cowrie, correct me if I'm off base here, but I know how long it takes me to spin up a Debian Linux or even Red Hat when I back in the day. First thing, you got to go buy the hardware and then wipe the so it's time. And going back to your point, most journalists and creators don't have the time to jerry rig the back end. So it's almost like you have a browser now that actually streamlines the process. I mean, some of the designs, man, like I'm super impressed with, the UI, UX guys you guys have at MASQ really building this stuff because it's clean, it's intuitive, you know where you need to go, it's minimal, it's not crazy busy, and the cognitive load is very low.
Yeah, it's actually one UX UI genius. We're keeping close in our team because he's so good, and he's made, yeah, he's the Picasso of all the things you see there. And he's awesome, man, Sui. But yeah, I think you guys are right. For people we're talking about now, which is just one audience that I think needs all of the aspects that I guess MASQ truly stands for at its core, right? Which is like freedom to communicate online, freedom to publish something, that can't be censored, and it's kind of enabling that as a gateway, right? And what you said, Chaitanya, as well. Someone had mentioned several times over my years working in MASQ that they're like, oh, well, can you package it into Tails OS, which I think is a very private, like Linux distro, which is untraceable, and you could, like you said, you could put it in a bootable pen drive, and people were asking, hey, can you bundle it in that, or maybe get a Docker where basically Tails OS opens up, you got MASQ browser inside it, and boom, then you're able to go on the fly with something fully private and ephemeral. Really, it becomes ephemeral.
Pretty cool. So pivot, I know we're coming up on time in a few minutes. Just pivoting very quickly. We've got 169 viewers right now on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. Some people call it X. I haven't made the mental shift yet, so I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. And I haven't had a question come in. First of the last 3 AMAs where we haven't had a barrage of questions, which is totally okay. So Chaitanya, I want to talk very briefly about a token economy. And I know we started the conversation with it. I think it's very important, and I want to reiterate this because one of the things we're building at MASQ, beyond credibility staking, and really what it really is think about the meritocracy that we had on the web with eBay or Amazon, where if you had 5 stars, people worked with you because you were trustworthy. But there was no way to verify that, and people started buying reviews on Amazon and eBay and all that. But in the case of MANDE, the way we have it here is the whole community, and it's all on chain, so you can track all those transactions. And we have the name service coming in a couple of weeks actually, that will even help you personalize, so you don't have to remember long wallet addresses, which is great because it's alani.mande. Period. And that's it. You can find me across, I can carry that profile across Web3. And those who know me, who do business with me or do whatever we do together, they can go and stake on my profile and still earn yield. So you don't have an oligarchy like many chains have, validators, top 10 validators control, a third, or half, the governance, holdings.
Yeah.
So we've changed a lot of that. And bringing a token economy into that is very, very critical for us. And that's why we're partnering with, the ArbitrumHub team to build SetNet, which then you can carry that, whether you want to, if you want to buy and sell using MASQ tokens, MANDE tokens, ARB, AKT, Osmo, Atom, whatever the case may be. It gives people that ability, because most people, when they own a token, they don't know what to do with it. You can only stake it or LP it. Right. And not everyone is looking for like the next yield optimizing, leverage 4x, all that DeFi stuff. Right. And when we give people a simple item, actually spend their tokens, you'll be amazed how much value we can unlock. So Chaitanya, give us a really quick perspective on that, and we'll start to, wind things down. And I will check for any questions coming in through the viewership. Chaitanya? Did I lose you?
He sounded like he was going to start talking. Maybe he clicked mute instead of unmute. Oh, he says he
Yeah,
can't open his mic.
I think so. We've got 193 viewers on X right now,
Wow.
and no questions yet, which is wow. That's really awesome.
That's
We must be doing a
we
good
must have
job.
done some some good like explanations where people are like, hey, that sounds good.
You gotta we just got to simplify it. Okay, I think Chachanya is probably frozen, but that's
He's
fine.
had a glitch.
Yeah, Payush emailed me saying he was caught up in something and he might not make it, but I'll get
Yeah.
him on the next one. But my point being, I think we need to start to looking into creating a token economy, and part of that comes together. As I said earlier, if we can actually start unlocking value from those who hold tokens, and then the credibility hub becomes juxtaposition for that, because then on your Craigslist store, if Alana is selling this pair of frames for 200, he wants 200 MASQ tokens for it. Well, you can also see my credibility score, right? So Alana is a real person. 8 people staked on him, and they earn yield. They earn yield on staking. So we're not just staking value; we're staking on each other based on our credibility score. And you're more likely to pay the 200 MASQ tokens Alani wants for these Ray-Bans, and Alani will ship it to you once he receives payment. And then if Alani doesn't ship it to you and Alani is a scammer, well, guess what? You just eliminate you unstake your credit from him, and my credibility score goes lower. You see what I mean? So a true meritocracy in Web3 using tokens on chains that are part of an overall ecosystem. So think of Stripe for Web3 based on a pure meritocracy. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And I'll just, I think I'm going to try to wrap up here. I know we're on time. I just wanted 40 minutes of your time. We didn't have any questions come through, which is kind of nice. And we crossed 207 live real-time viewers on X. Yeah,
that's good. We got the double century tonight, man. That's awesome.
It's a first. It's a first.
Yeah.
It's a first. It's a first. So give me your final
I think you're
thoughts,
right.
man.
Yeah, listen, I'm all for it, man. I mean, last year we took a lot of time. We wrote up like a whole token economy sort of outline for MASQ specifically because we felt that would be relevant. Some people might come in and do exactly what you said right there. Say, okay, we've got this cool ecosystem. It's powered by a token. Okay, it's a utility token. What if I'm living in a place where I'm relatively free? I serve the network because I want to share my freedom, my bandwidth with MASQ and earn some tokens. Like, what do I do with it? Like, is there staking? Is there this? Is there that? A lot of those mechanisms become not only just cliche, but you're sort of like, why is it so circular, right? Is it always going to stay in this little cycle? And I've always agreed with you, like, hey, there's got to be a way to move these tokens into a real world setting, be able to use them in an economy for other things, not like maybe outside our ecosystem. Maybe it is with ecosystem partners, with partner projects, partner services, things like that. But like when we had a few chats like, here and there, and you were like, hey, I really want to see something like MANDE built in this Web3, Stripe for Web3. I was like, bro, that is it. Like imagine that, you could like serve a whole bunch on MASQ, earn some tokens and be like, hey, I've earned enough. I want to buy something in real life and have a real product. It's just like, it kind of makes sense. That is missing so much in our ecosystem.
And it is. It is. Yeah, very well said. Very well said. I'm looking forward to addressing that. And I really want to. First, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know, time zone differences, as we talked about this earlier, can be something to manage. But I mean, always a pleasure. Always a nice. I mean, it's just the alignment is something that I find inspiration with people who are actually building tools that impact our daily lives and remind us of why we are. And that's a shared responsibility. A lot of that is missing. I think that we are in the time and space and place where we need reminders of that, especially given recent political events and things like that. I think, those humbling moments remind you of people who are actually like, you always question when things happen, like, wow, who's making an impact? And you think about the people the projects that are actually doing something And I'm there finding a lot of inspiration in that. So thank you for all the work you've been doing with the team over there at MASQ. Very happy about it. At MANDE, we'll keep doing the same thing. So credibility meets privacy at some point. I'm super looking forward to that, including SetNet and many other
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
dude, thank you so much. I'm going to let you get some rest. It's
Yeah,
always
no
a
worries.
pleasure.
Yeah, same. Thanks for opening up your studio and your space to share ideas and talk about stuff, and also letting us share like what's new in MASQ. And hey, I'm gonna do a lot more research. Like I've started looking at Mandi and like it looks super cool. Like it kind of just makes sense, right? Almost with like if we're gonna operate in a private sort of based world of MASQ, like how do you then build credibility if there's no way to know good things about a user, it's completely private, then like how do you know if they're credible, right? So it kind of
Exactly.
like makes a lot of sense to match that up,
It really
especially
does.
with merchant side. Yeah, it's perfect,
Perfect.
and
Yeah,
yeah. And
that's
for
been
anyone from the MASQ community listening in, can you give us some some places to go to find out more about Mandi and where we should
absolutely.
navigate to?
So yeah, it's just Mande Network, MANDE, no, Mande Network, Mande, MANDE.
Yep.
Follow us, same identity on Twitter, same identity, Mande.network. Can't miss it. And if you're not
Nice.
sure, check out my profile. It's right there. It'll link you back to it. Very easy to find. Credibility Hub for Web3. Feel free to participate, ask any questions. We'd definitely love to work with the MASQ ecosystem as well. So please, please, please feel free to reach out. There is no crazy question. Ask any question. The crazier the questions, the more fun they are to answer.
Nice, nice. And are you do you have any social chat rooms yet? Do you have Telegram, Discord, or anything like that?
Yeah, we are on Discord. Everything's on our site.
Oh,
So if you go to
sweet. Nice.
Mande.network or Mande Network, all the links are there.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I will
Twitter,
join.
Discord, Telegram.
I don't know why I'm not in your Discord, but I will be soon before I go to bed.
You
I'm gonna
should,
jump in
man.
there.
You
Yeah, yeah.
should.
I'll
Why
do
not?
that. And yeah, if anyone from your side and Arbitrum and all the wonderful, people listening, if you want to find out about MASQ, same thing, hop onto our website, maskbrowser.com. You'll find all our links. You'll find our browser in there, so you guys can give it a test drive. And the new version's like literally going to come out in the next couple days. So, I won't be upset if you waited a few days just because the new version, you can wait and then get the newest one. But if you want to try it now, it's totally cool. It'll update, through the app. You can click the update button
That'll
and
be
it should do the magic. Yeah. So check us out. Love
yeah.
to see everyone and answer questions. But thanks again for having me, man. Always a pleasure. I have a lot of respect for you, Alani. You're one of the good ones in the space, mate. And
The
doesn't matter
feeling
what
is
time it is, I'll try and make the time.
yeah, the feeling is mutual, sir. Like I said, number one MASQ Maxi here, always ready to support in any way I can. You know how it is. Just let me know. I'll be there.
Oh man, I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, there's not a lot of people like you, and like that they're like that and are reliable and there to help. So man, I appreciate you heaps. And yeah, hopefully maybe we could do a repeat if Payush wants to join for round 2. Yeah, we'll do that
Yes, sir.
sometime too, man.
I will set that in motion. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have Rena from Cosmos at the next one. That'll be in 2 weeks, the week of the 30th. So it'll be fun. You know what? Let's do that. I would like to have you on that as well because there's a lot of things going on in Cosmos, and she serves on that board. It'll be a
Yeah,
very good
I want to connect with them. I want to explore more for MASQ's sake, the IBC possibilities too. I mean, it's totally feasible. I know we're taking more time, but hopefully MASQ can. We wanted to transcend just being an EVM project, right? We started on ETH like OG. We've migrated to Polygon where we live now for the faster transactions, cheaper gas sort of thing. We're going to support other chains probably soon, more chains. We're chain agnostic. So it kind of makes sense that like one day as the Cosmos ecosystem keeps growing and growing and growing, like we'll probably need a way to bridge into that and offer those privacy tools and layers into people who live in Cosmos, So
yeah.
I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah, I'll pull you into that session with Rena. I also have Ben Wellington, head of community at Ava Labs. We will be doing our session next week as well. So I might pull you into that as well. So keep an eye out. Just saying.
As long as you give me a couple of days warning, I can do some extra late nights. I'll
All
make sure I'm
right,
in
good.
my office, not waking up the family. We're all good.
Grab your tea, grab your coffee, and some cookies or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, we'll do, man. I'll sleep well tonight. But honestly, it's always a pleasure, man. Love talking with you and the guests too. I hope we can connect again with them. And yeah, thanks again for everything. I appreciate it.
All right, sounds good, sir. Enjoy, be well, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, buddy.